I know trading sounds intimidating. Here's my strategy in a nutshell. I see a stock going up and I buy it, and I just watch it until it stops going up, and then I sell it, and I do that over and over, and it pays for our whole lifestyle.
Every day, I wake up at 5:30 in the morning. Feels like I have more grease in my hair and crust in my eyes than a Pizza Hut garbage can. And you're probably thinking, but Julian, if you're any good at trading, what's the problem? Why is your phone constantly ringing with notifications? Why don't you just drink a coffee? Why do you still drive a Prius? All right, let the record show that Leonardo DiCaprio also drives a Prius. This is what an average morning looks like for me in my world of day trading. No Rolexes or fancy suits and ties, just me in my film/office room every morning at the crack of dawn. I've woken up every weekday for the last 5 years pretty much to study the markets and trade stocks. And today I want to share with you my experiences and some of the lessons that I've learned that no trading course or teacher is ever going to tell you about. Things like it taking months or even years to become consistently profitable at this stuff, and that even when you do, to find that flow state every single morning takes a level of dedication I think is akin to being a professional athlete. And that along the way, you are going to experience these radical emotional swings to doing this stuff consistently. You're gonna have days where you feel like you're on top of the world and you wanna go to the bar and buy everyone a round of drinks. And you're gonna have days where you're so frustrated and pissed off with the market that you're going to want to literally punch a wall and go right through it Hulk style. And there is the fact that once you do become a consistent and profitable trader, it's going to be next to impossible for you to look at money the same way and never return to a normal job ever again. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm really glad that I learned day trading, that after all the big wins and big losses sort of sorted themselves out, I have actually become a consistently profitable trader. But even if you reach this state of financial freedom through trading, you're going to feel like something is off, and that is the fact that you're probably going to be more financially lonely than you've ever been in your life. But before we get into all the doom and gloom stuff, there's a lot of positive stuff. I want to kind of explain my journey and how I got into trading in the first place. Now, I feel like if you've been around the last few months, your story might be similar. You heard something on the news about GameStop or Dogecoin or crypto this or weed stocks that, and you got interested because you saw everyone else making money at this and you thought, why not try it myself? For me, this event was the 2016 election with Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. Now, I'm a Canadian. Our politics is not nearly as interesting as our neighbors down south. So for me, tuning into the primary debates with Donald Trump and all the other people on the Republican stage was sheer entertainment. And through that process of watching Donald Trump just eviscerate and insult his way to the nomination,
he has failed in this campaign. It's been a total disaster. Nobody cares.
You cannot take
more energy tonight. I like that.
I ended up studying and learning so much about the American political system and how elections are done, things like gerrymandering, all the other things that come on a ballot at election time besides just the presidency and senators and posts and whatnot. And so through this process, come November, I wanted to kind of place a bet on the election because I had felt, like some people, a lot of people actually, that Donald Trump might actually have a shot at winning. But what I also noted was on the ballot at the time was a whole bunch of states in the United States putting weed on the ballot. And I was looking through polls, and basically it looked like there was unanimous support in all of these states. I forget what ones there were, but I think, maybe California or Massachusetts or a lot of different states in 2016 ended up legalizing marijuana. The support was overwhelmingly positive, and I thought, well, this is a pretty simple thing. If weed is going to be legal in a lot of states in the US, in Canada, we're about 2 years away from legalizing it in 2016. Weed stocks seem like an obvious pick, and I don't think I'm late to the game because I don't know anything about, stock trading and prices and stuff at the time. So what I did is I just blindly bought a whole basket of weed stocks. And sure enough, in a couple of days, they went to the moon. And I felt like a genius. I had made like 100% in a couple days. Back then it was only like $1,000 or $2,000 profit, but I felt like a goddamn genius. And it wasn't because I made money, it was because I was able to kind of predict this thing happening. And I thought that I had some type of insight into the market that maybe no one else had at the time. It was pretty much my first bubble. And in every bubble, there are all these elements of psychology. There's kind of the initial intrigue, there's kind of the excitement, the euphoria, and then the top is hit. Then you get depression, fear, anger on the way down. I felt like I learned all of these things through the cycle of markets, and I wanted more. I thought weed was maybe the first paradigm. I was already into crypto at the time. And just seeing where everything was going in the world after Donald Trump had been elected, I thought there's got to be way more opportunities than just that. It was a thrill. I made thousands of dollars, and therein lies the first lesson. The first one is always free. At the beginning of every great trading career, there's usually a whole lot of dumb luck. You pick something that went up really fast, you made a whole bunch of money, and then now you feel like a genius. It's time to hand in your resignation letter at work, time to drop out of school, time to update your LinkedIn and Tinder profile to professional day trader. Maybe you rack up another win with a penny stock, maybe you get into some crazy cryptocurrency, and the money just keeps adding up. You feel like a genius. You are a day trader. Or you might think you are until you feel the crush of despair, because you've just bought something that is a literal heaping, flaming pile of garbage. Within days, hours, or even minutes, all of that progress and profit that you've made is gone, wiped out because you bought dung shit and you didn't use a stop loss. Back to square one. You feel lonely, you bust out of the table, you pour yourself a bath to drown in your sorrows. All right, so maybe all of that is a little bit dramatic, but the truth here is that most traders find themselves in this sort of situation for one reason or another. And statistically, 90% of traders get to this point, give up, and never come back. For me, I had basically the same sort of situation happen. I had made a whole bunch of money with these weed stocks. I rolled it into bigger and stupider plays, and then I gave it all back in one dumb trade because I got greedy. The difference for me was I knew what I was in for. I didn't care that for the next few months or even years, I might not even make a penny doing this stuff because I just wanted to learn what it was all about. I wanted to know why some stocks would only go up, basically, and some just endlessly went down into a pit of nothingness, garbage, penny stockness. I wanted to learn about all the different terms that traders use, like stock splits and dilution, and how that impacted things like stock prices and demand or supply on a certain day. I wanted to know why certain traders on the internet would just spend all day in their videos flexing their gains or trying to sell you courses or memberships or lifestyles, and why some people would just provide dozens and dozens of hours of free content and basically ask nothing in return. Because if it was all about the money, those latter people probably wouldn't exist. And that's where I learned my second and most important lesson. That trading is a marathon, not a race. Now, everyone has their own technique for trading. Some people just ride off of the psychology of the markets. They buy rumors, they buy news or sell news, and they're able to kind of gut feel out the trading wins on any given day. But the most profitable and successful, consistent traders that I know use something called technical analysis. What technical analysis is in a nutshell is basically taking patterns and past history of a stock or an index or anything with a chart and projecting that history into future probabilities. And how that really helps is it lets you put behavioral economics onto these statistical patterns of stocks so that you can take trade setups where basically you'll enter at a certain price, you'll have a level where you're definitely gonna leave if things go awry, and then a level where you take profit. And by finding these good risk to reward opportunities and doing them consistently on a consistent basis, that is essentially how you become profitable. And everyone in the world of technical analysis-based trading has kind of a different way of approaching it. There's a whole bevy of different indicators you can use to try and predict where a stock is going to go or to find those setups or screen those setups where you can find the best risk to reward. At the end of the day, for me, it's kind of like forecasting the weather. You need to find the model that works the best for you. And if you can accurately forecast it more than 50% of the time, 70 or 80% of the time, then you have a pathway to become profitable trading. For me, technical analysis has not been about finding home runs. It's been about preserving capital. The hardest thing to do is when the market is going down to not get dragged down with it. When things are in a bull market, you can throw a dart at most things and make money. But for me, technical analysis really helped in that regard. And the way that I would recommend everyone approach it is to treat it like school. Take the courses, sit down, treat it like a course, sit down for an hour, 2 hours, take notes, review that stuff multiple times. And lastly, the most important step for me is play with trading accounts. The first urge you're gonna have is that I've just done all this work, I wanna start making some money right away. But for me, the best thing that I possibly did to get good at trading was to spend 3 to 6 months actually just doing it with practice money to make sure that my thesis and understanding of technical analysis actually worked in practice. Now, my intention is not to make this a whole video about how to become a day trader overnight, but just to share my experiences. And basically when it comes to trading, there's two kind of primary different styles of approaching it. You can either play momentum, you can play the trend. Basically, if things are going up, you want to buy a dip and then sell higher, hope that trend continues. And then there's the opposite of that, which is contrarian, where you're seeing things and everyone's looking one way on something and you want to look the other way and see if you can make money doing that. So momentum trading is probably the easiest one right now because it's all about identifying the trend of where things are going. And with everything expanding, the monetary supply getting flooded, everything for the most part likes to go up. And so when you're playing momentum, you're looking for dips on stocks that are steadily going up, looking for opportunities like little news freakouts or things like that so that you can make money when things get sold off, but the overall trend is upwards. For me, when it comes to momentum trading, I really like to use moving averages, and there's all sorts of different lengths of time, and moving averages are basically just like a line that takes an average of the last 14 days or 14 hours or 14 minutes of a stock's action and assigns a value to it. Stocks really like to kind of grind up moving averages, go past them, overshoot them, and then come back down to kind of bounce off them and zigzag up them upwards or zigzag downwards on them as well. And so momentum trading is all about identifying those patterns and then using things like moving averages to figure out the next good entry points for either buying or short selling a stock. Momentum trading is also a little bit easier to pull off because you have very clear levels where you will exit a trade. Because once you learn about technical analysis, you'll know if something loses its uptrend or loses its downtrend and changes course in the other direction. When that happens, you get out of the trade because your thesis of playing the momentum has changed because the momentum has changed in of itself. Now, contrarian is also another way to play stocks. Essentially, you're looking to kind of play the other side of momentum. If everyone thinks that a stock is going to go up forever and you're seeing all this euphoria, you can try shorting it. And I wouldn't actually recommend shorting any stock that is just blasting off because bubbles can get a whole lot bigger than you think they can get. But the other side of it is if you see something plummeting and just falling into the center of the earth, you can look at that as potentially an opportunity to buy something cheap and then hopefully when it kind of gets over that whole thing, sell it higher. Now, the problem with contrarian trading for the most part is almost nobody is going to be able to tell you when something is a perfect time to buy or to short. It's very hard because you are playing against the trend, but the risk is a lot higher and potentially the reward is a lot higher too. Because usually when things are plummeting or going up, that means the volatility is expanding. And what that lets you do is it lets you buy dips that are very severe, and even getting a little bounce back over the course of a day or two can lead to 1 to 20% profits in very short amounts of time. And so when I'm dealing with contrarian trades, instead of saying this is a level where I'm going to get out, I say to myself, this is the maximum loss I'm going to tolerate on this specific trade, and this is the profit that I'm looking for. So if I'm entering a trade, let's just say on something that's very oversold, I'll say I don't want to take more than a 2% loss on this. As soon as it gets past that threshold, I just get out of it, even if it's a loss. Even if the next minute that I sell, it starts ripping ass to like $1 billion, I'm just going to take that loss and move on to the next thing. And with the contrarian trades, you're really just, if they get out of your control, you really just have to let them go. But you can use techniques like scaling in so you have multiple average entries and just, feeding into the weakness or shorting the strength. Just be very careful with these contrarian plays because they can really go out of hand very quickly. Now, in terms of my style, that has really changed over the years. I used to be a really big contrarian guy. I would look for things that were very oversold and think to myself, wow, this must be a big discount. I'm buying very cheap. I'm going to be able to sell it high when people wake up and smell the roses. That used to make up about 70 to 80% of my trades. And when I actually started getting profitable, I realized that the 20% of the trades that were actually doing the legwork, the Pareto principle, were the momentum trades. It was kind of following the trends and just staying with the flock, with the pack that kind of like to go uphill or shorting the pack that kind of like to go downhill. And so when I changed that and I started focusing a lot more on momentum trades, I still did contrarian plays, but when I switched the ratios over, I became a lot more profitable and trading was a lot more stress-free because there were very obvious places where you would get out of a trade if it didn't go your way because of the way that momentum trading works. And the third and most important lesson after all of that stuff is to find a community. And the reason I say that is because in the beginning, and I think a lot of people are in this state too, you end up just trading by yourself. And that whole journey that you go through learning about these things, going through those emotional ups and downs, those are all things that only you experience, and you're the only person around you who can probably relate to them. And what happens is you end up bringing these stories of, I made $1,000 trading weed stocks or cryptocurrency and I lost $1,000. And you bring these to people around you, loved ones and other people who are either retired or in school or just have no interest in trading themselves because they've got a job and they're happy with what they're doing. And you start telling people about how you've moved this money, and people just have a hard time relating. Most people see it as gambling. And that's not their fault. It's not your fault. But I think in order to get that feedback loop and to get feedback to help you contain your emotions and your moods and stuff with trading, you need to be around peers that are kind of doing the same thing. When it comes to trading, you need to surround yourself with people who have similar goals to you. If you're the type of person who wants to go out and get a yacht and spend money traveling the world and partying and things like that, there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to find those people who want to do the same thing in your trading group, because likely they're going to share a lot of the other same beliefs that you do as well. And if you're kind of a different breed and you want to just be financially free, maybe you want to live on a farm your whole life, you should find a trading community that kind of matches that ideal as well, because people are going to be going through the same journey that you're just going through now. People will have already gone through that journey, and you're going to be able to share those experiences and ideals with those people and gain some really valuable insight about how to get there and how to manage yourself on this whole trading journey. And obviously for me, that was the chart guys. I'm a pretty down-to-earth person. I like going outdoors. Dan and the whole cohort with the chart guys, they're really into that stuff as well. That is a little bit hard to come by in the trading community sometimes. I think there's a good percentage of people in the chart guys, which is the group that I'm in, that are farmers. I don't think you're going to find that with a lot of other trading groups online, but I like that cohort. I'm kind of getting into that stuff myself, learning about agriculture and building things, and it's really interesting to talk about that stuff when you're not talking about trading psychology or the charts as well. The other big thing with this too is that it's really important to find mentors early on, and I think everyone kind of recommends if you want to get into something, you got to find a mentor. But if you're going to put in 10,000 hours to become, really good at something, it's almost impossible to do that by yourself. You have to have some sort of feedback loop of people to criticize you, of people to aspire to, of people to get knowledge and wisdom from, and then eventually to solidify those skills that you've learned to pass it on to another generation. And that's why a lot of people that get into trading, they want to make videos like this one and kind of teach other people about it, because just saying these things aloud kind of cements that knowledge that you've worked to develop over the months or the years that you've been into it. And once you found that community, I think the rest is cake. If you've surrounded yourself with people who are going to lift you up and kind of inspire you to do better at trading or to learn all sorts of different new things, you keep an open mind, I think you can do really well in this stuff. But the other big element to trading that a group is not necessarily going to be able to fully help you with is managing your emotions. And it doesn't seem like that complex of a thing when you get into trading, because it's like you're pressing buttons on a keyboard and it maybe might feel like a video game. But when the numbers start flashing bigger than they ever have before, it can lead you to do some pretty crazy things. And like I said in the beginning, I'll have days where I've made such an insane amount of money and I want to go and get everyone a beer or even donate money to charity. And then I'll have days where I lose such an unfathomable amount of money that all I can think about is all the things I could have bought if I just didn't wake up that day, or all the things I could have done if I just didn't wake up that day and press a couple buttons and look at a screen. And even 5 years into it, I'm still getting some of these huge gains and huge losses that are kind of out of my control. I'll set my risk parameters in the morning. I want to lose 1% tops. I want to make 2% tops, but I'll blow over them in either direction because things just go awry. And every time that happens, you have to step back and kind of realize, where did I go wrong? Where did I lose my emotions? How do I keep myself in check for next time? When it comes to trading, you need to write down things and experiences and things that you feel. It's really good to get into journaling. If you haven't done it before, trading, I feel it's almost essential to get into, because you have to log these emotional milestones so that you can progress and get over certain humps for the next time that you trade, because it's happening every single morning. You're going from Monday to Friday, you got a 2-day or 3-day break on a long weekend, and you're right back at it. If you really want to be a day trader, you get into it, you're really going to be doing it every single day. So you have to have places where you can write down and track stuff so that you can learn from your past mistakes or past successes. Now, despite all of that, if you can handle all that stuff, you're probably on the road to being a really good day trader or swing trader or any type of trader that you want to be. But with all that being said, for me, in my humble opinion, you're always going to feel like you're missing something. And that is because at the end of the day, you're pressing buttons to make unfathomable amounts of money. When you really start getting good at this, the amount of money that you're making in one day pressing X or losing in one day pressing Y is a lot. And most people are not going to relate to you on that level. And for me, one of the things that I've had to deal with in terms of trading and really getting a lot of success after a few years of just breaking even is this feeling of imposter syndrome. I built a business up, for example, and I spent a lot of time doing that, and I felt like it was blood, sweat, and tears. I take a lot of calls, stay up 12 hours a night, editing and making all these things, and I felt that $1,000 or $2,000 I made on a video was well earned and well deserved. And trading, you're going to feel like that at a certain point as well, because you will have spent all this time learning things, and then you're going to be like, yeah, of course, I deserve the massive win I had the other day on the Bitcoin trade or the weed stock trade. But eventually, you're going to have a moment where you think that maybe you don't deserve this stuff, or at least that was the case for me, where sometimes the money will come so easy that you just feel like you don't deserve it. And it's kind of like, it's unfair that, you're able to make all this stuff out while people are just busting their asses. And there's the opposite as well. You're going to have streaks where you just keep getting nailed, and all you can think about is, why am I spending, a whole week of doing this just to lose thousands and thousands of dollars, or my previous salary in like a week? When you're starting to deal with these really big figures and numbers, you've maybe gone from making 100 a day or losing 100 a day to 1,000 to 10,000, and maybe if you're a pro, it's in the six figures. It's going to be very hard to connect with some of the people around you. And if you do this journey right and you're really, you're able to be profitable and successful at it, people are going to look at you like you're cheating your way through life. And I've had this feeling with some of my old friends, acquaintances that I'm not in contact with. They look at the stuff that you're doing with trading, and even if you stay humble about it, the question always comes up, how did you get the house? What are you doing these days? And you say, oh, I'm a day trader. And the questions kind of keep going on when you have these conversations, and people want to know how you do it. And you're going to get people who are just genuinely intrigued about what you're doing. But you're also going to get a sense from people sometimes that, that maybe you're getting it too easy, and you're going to feel like a fraud or an imposter. I think this is something that a lot of traders who are connected, with people who are not in the space encounter at one point or another. It's something that I am personally trying to figure out myself right now, is how do I talk about trading and kind of, do I even talk about trading? Do I let people in on this part of my life at all? And if you're doing something that possesses so much of your time and you feel like you can't even talk about it without it being awkward, it makes you rethink how long you can possibly do something. I think with everything in terms of work or pleasure, you want to be able to share that with other people. And trading is one of those things where you have to really dance around the subject in order to not make people feel uncomfortable or weirded out, or even feel overly confident that something like this is so easy and doable that they go out and they lose money themselves. So you lose a bit of this relatability when you get into trading. And it's very important to kind of dip back into that community where you've been trading and make friends with those people, because those people are going to understand you better than anyone else in terms of your journey and how you got there. So all being said, I think there's just a lot of things that people don't consider when it comes to trading. I'm giving the rosy picture of these are all the things you have to worry about when you become really successful, because I think in all reality it is something that is very difficult, but it is learnable. If you can manage the emotions, if you can manage the risk management and all of that stuff, you can become a successful trader. I have resources down below, but again, I love the chart guys. They make excellent stuff, and they even dive into the psychology of this stuff as well. But the stuff that I don't hear about, again, in this video is all the stuff that comes afterwards. Once you have achieved some sort of success with trading, you've built this financial freedom for yourself, what are the implications of that? And does it actually end up making you a lot lonelier than you would have thought with all this extra disposable income? The other last part I want to just put on this note is that when you're generating all these figures, it's numbers on a screen in cyberspace. I think all traders need to have a clear idea of what they're going to do when they hit certain levels of financial accumulation. A lot of people obviously have houses. I never recommend anyone get into trading if they have any sort of debt, because you're going to make decisions based on paying off that debt likely. But you need to have an idea of what you're going to do when you hit certain milestones. To just have an overall game plan of, if I get to this level, I want to get this for myself, or I want to do this for myself, or nothing for yourself and just for other people, that's even better. But to have a clear vision of what those goals are when you hit certain levels of accumulated wealth is really good. You're going to have to pull that money out of your trading account at some point. There might be taxes involved as well. You have to get that stuff sorted out early on. But have a game plan, because what makes it different from another skill is maybe you get really good at karate, you have a world championship to go to and this or that. When it comes to trading, you're not doing it to compete with other people. And that's actually the worst thing to do when it comes to trading, is comparing yourself to other people. But there should be an end game to all of it for yourself. If you just love it for the thrill of it, that's fine. You can do it. Maybe money doesn't matter. But at some point, you're going to have a lot of wealth and you can change your life and do something with that. And it's really important that you set that plan out as early as possible so that you don't get caught up in this whole imposter syndrome. I think a lot of that can also come, that imposter syndrome, from not knowing what to do with newfound wealth. So yeah, that's my take on it. I am probably not going to do a whole bunch of like trading tutorials and lessons unless people really want to learn about that stuff. So again, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate that. If you haven't already, subscribe to Kinetic Finance. This was a bit more of like a personal rambling type of thing rather than one of those scripted informational ones, but I hope you like it. I try and mix it up once in a while. I hope you guys take care, and I'll see you in the next one.